Hi, I'm Anne Fraser. Welcome to another edition of Bringing Hope to Alzheimer's. And today I have a special guest. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. This is Courtney Krusemark. And so I'm going to read you what Courtney does because this is good. She is a registered nurse and a functional wellness coach. She coaches moms and everybody, not just moms, so all of you don't just tune out. She coaches moms and everybody else that are at risk for diabetes, to lose weight, stop craving sugar, oh, that's a big one, and regain energy so they can fully engage in life and confidently role model health to their friends and family. So again, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
We are aligned. We've already talked about this. We are completely aligned. And so this is your first time on a podcast, and we're going to learn all about you and all about your company.
Awesome.
The name of your company is Under the Hood Wellness. And I love that. I immediately think of a car or a truck with the hood up and like messing with the innards. And that's what you do, right?
Right.
Tell us when you got started and a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I started this company about a year ago. I had been in the emergency room at St. Luke's East Hospital in my last year at the bedside as a nurse, and I did my coaching certificate, and then I stepped out to do this. And I've been studying functional medicine for probably the last 12 years myself. And so the idea of Under the Hood Wellness, exactly like what you said, it actually has a double meaning. So under the hood is looking under our hood and understanding that our bodies are actually kind of like a vehicle that needs to run on the proper things. And so I look at it that way and finding the root cause of what's going on underneath. But also, I feel very passionately that some of the solutions to our problem start under the hood in our kitchen. And so it kind of has a dual meaning.
Oh, I love
both
that.
of those things. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Okay, good. Well, what got you involved in the functional medicine space? Because that's a little different than Western medicine, right?
Absolutely.
And I always say my whole family, they're doctors, nurses, surgeons, nurse practitioners, and there's Western medicine. The opposite end of the spectrum is Eastern medicine, and in the middle is this wonderful space called functional medicine. What got you interested in that specifically?
You know, honestly, I don't know of the one specific thing, but I think it's been the process of my own journey and just learning about health myself. So I would have been about 10 years into my nursing career working in the intensive care unit. So there you see the acute things going on and you don't see the people living every day with kind of the metabolic stuff that we deal with. But as I had children, you start to recognize and realize you want to give them the best start in life as possible. And so I started, making my own baby food because we all have the dream to do that kind of stuff. And then you realize you're tired and busy, and so you stop doing it. But I at least learned about food and how food as medicine can be such a powerful thing. And so it's probably been the process of the last 12 years of just continuously challenging myself to learn more things, read more things, follow more doctors that has just brought me down that road. And then I saw it firsthand when I was working in Western medicine that we Band-Aid the symptoms that are out there, and we're not really healing what's going on underneath, under the hood.
Right.
So I am really passionate, and that's why I finally just took the leap and stepped out on my own to really feel like I could impact people and give them that hope that there is a better way, and you don't have to feel kind of those vague symptoms of exhaustion and brain fog and all those things that people are living with, and they just think that it's a normal part of life and a normal part of aging.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I have a lot of people who will say, on the Alzheimer's side, well, losing your memory over when you get older is normal. It's actually not normal at all. And a lot of people buy into that kind of that lie. People are also they think they're looking for a pill, right? But they're not looking for a pill because a pill just is like a Band-Aid and it's not really going to the root cause.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hear that from people all the time. And I've even heard physicians tell people in their meetings with them, like, this is just a normal process of aging. And I want to stand up behind them and scream, no, it's not. No, it's not. There is a better way.
That's right. That's right. So do you have an office that people come to and visit you?
I'm virtual. I do everything virtual.
That is the wave of the future, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been lovely. I mean, the fact that before COVID, I didn't even know how to do a Skype call. And now I'm 100% doing my business over Zoom is incredible. So the one thing we got out of this terrible virus.
Was some great things came out of it, for sure, for sure. So you were talking about doing things virtually. Walk me through, someone calls you up and wants to get in to see you. Walk me through what your process is.
Yeah, absolutely. I always start with just kind of a quick 15-minute call with people. Just kind of say, hey, how are you doing? What do you have going on? Is this even something that they might not even know who I am or what I do? So I can give them brief things with that. And then I'll usually take people through a deeper dive to really give them clarity. And so I go through a very specific diagnostic process with everybody after that to give them an idea of what next steps are for them. And it might not be with me, and that's fine. They may already have some things that they're wanting to try, and I just encourage them to go down that route. Or I actually have connection with a global network of health coaches that if I and my metabolic expertise isn't right for them, I may have contact with somebody else that I can guide them to. So we really just walk through that process to give them clarity to find those next steps. And I do all of that 100% free so that they can jump into that and not be afraid of like, oh, am I paying for something that's not going to get me anything?
Right.
Yeah.
So you do the 15-minute consultation. You decide that you're a good match. Then what happens?
Then I do that longer diagnostic.
What is that?
Deep dive.
Like how long?
It's like an hour.
Okay.
I spend an hour with them really to dig through like what's going on, what are you feeling, what are these vague symptoms or even diagnoses that they have, and where do they want to go, and kind of what's the gap between the two, and how do we fill that gap so we can get you to your goals.
So do you, at that point in time, do you order up then like blood work, poop test, spit test? Like how does that happen?
So I started out in my practice potentially going down that route, but I really feel like there's so much more we can do before that, before we have to dive deep into all these labs that are kind of basic shifts. And if we can do those basic shifts, we may not ever need to study those labs. So I just really start in diet and lifestyle change off the bat right away. And then if we get, 3 months in and we're like, okay, we're not moving the needle on these things, I either can utilize Rupa Health and things like that to partner with their physicians to try to do orders, or I would partner with another functional medicine person in town, and I'm starting to make those relationships and find ways to do
Sure. Good. So do you do like supplements then? Because, our food, our nutrition is so void, right, of so many things. Do you go through and make suggestions of different supplements, like good supplements?
I try to stay in my lane as a nurse, and I educate because that's really what I can do. I can't diagnose, I can't write prescriptions, but I stay in my lane as a nurse. But I can educate clients on there's really a lot of things that most of us are deficient in. I would say magnesium, omega-3s, and vitamin D are probably the 3 ones that everybody could be taking. But then we go down to even deeper things. If somebody's dealing with anxiety or depression, or if people are dealing with difficulty sleeping, then I'll really say, okay, magnesium is going to be really important for you. Or we can get more specific into their specific needs. But really, I start with what can you put in? Because really, if we take away some of the toxins in our food, in our environment, in our stress levels, then that's going to make a profound difference. And then if we start adding in these other things, we're going to continue to be even better.
Right. So in nutrition, do you do the elimination diet where they start by going just basic and then add little things to see if their body has inflammatory reactions?
I've done that with a lot of clients. Yeah. And you see people move the needle a lot. That actually has been one of the biggest things to stimulate stuck weight loss or stuck extra weight so they can get that weight loss because of some of those inflammatory foods. So yes, I definitely walk people through that. I don't start there because a lot of people aren't ready for that. But if we get to the point that people are ready to do that, then I definitely support people through that process.
Right. Very good. So then they've met with you for the hour and you've kind of gone through and made some supplemental ideas and food changing ideas and those types of things. Then what happens after? What's the follow-up to that then?
So then we decide what's the right next step, right? So it's hard for me to say without actually knowing the specifics of each individual.
Yeah.
But typically I walk hand in hand with people to get them from where they are, and they might be at excess weight, they may be with some hormone imbalances, they may be with low energy, and I walk them hand in hand. Typically I start with about 3 months to work with somebody to try to get them to those goals. Now 3 months sounds like a long time, but as we know, it's taken us 30 years to get where we are. And so you don't undo 30 years of either bad habits or metabolic insufficiencies in 3 months necessarily. So I'm obviously there to support people longer than that as well. So we see where we can move the needle, and then setting up new neural pathways and changing habits actually takes like a year to a year and a half. So supporting people through all different seasons of life, whether it be going on a vacation or a traumatic experience in families or any of these things, then supporting them through the choices that we make in response to those very emotional times is really what I do.
Good. Because Kevin and I were just talking a little bit ago, but it is simple, but it is not easy.
That's exactly what some of my coaching friends say. We say that together.
Right, because it's great, and when you're like doing well, to be like, yeah, I'm going to just eat my vegetables, I'm going to be so good, I'm going to do all these things, and then you have a weak moment, or something's introduced, or you're at a family event and everybody's eating something that you normally would have with them, and so those are the types of things that make it difficult. And then sometimes I would just get, a little bit rebellious and be like, I'm going to go rogue on this and I'm just going to eat whatever I want. And then you feel horrible again. Mm-hmm. So do you find yourself sometimes more like in a coaching role too with your clients? Like, when people fall off the wagon, do they tell you they've fallen off the wagon? How does that work? This episode is brought to you by Thrive Once More. And I'm going to tell you a personal story because Thrive Once More, I was looking for a new functional medicine, integrative medicine doctor, and I found Dr. Anne Morgan. She was a ER doctor for 22 years and got tired of seeing people come in so sick and just being able to treat the symptom that was happening at the moment and not really the inside of the body. So she started her own practice called Thrive Once More, where she helps men and women figure out what medical issues are going on in the body and how to get to the root cause so you can actually heal and not just take a pill or do something that's going to just treat the symptom and not the problem. So Thrive Once More, Dr. Anne Morgan, she's my personal doctor. If you want to make an appointment for just a quick consultation, you can go to thriveoncemore.com. And we want to thank her for being a supporter of this podcast.
I think most people will tell me.
Yeah.
I was actually just saying to one of my clients this morning is there's really no failure. The only failure is if we don't learn from our failures, right? So if we take our failure and we ignore it and we hide it and we try to act like it didn't happen, then we don't learn from that experience. But if I learn from my failure and I ask, why did I do that? What brought me down to that road? What brought me to this point? Then I can learn. So when I approach it again, I can have systems in place to try to do it differently. And as long as we continually try to do it differently, then we will set those new neural pathways because we have to identify what causes our initial habits, right? Why does ice cream make me feel better? Well, maybe it was a memory that I have from the past of spending that time with my grandmother or whatever. Like we all have these stories that brought us to where we are, and we don't know those because we've never dug deep and analyzed them. So I make people overanalyze themselves.
There you go. I like that. So with our podcast, we're all about healthy lifestyle because our focus obviously is Alzheimer's and dementia. And so one of the things that we really try to drive home, because the three main causes of Alzheimer's is, it's a lifestyle disease, it's an inflammatory disease, and it's type 3 diabetes. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of the things because I see a functional doctor, or some people call it integrative medicine, either way, same thing. So one of the biggest things that we really try to get across to our audience is the lifestyle changes they can make, but in your line of work as a registered nurse, what are you seeing? Are you seeing people that are having the foggy brain or some cognitive issues?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's one of the things that stimulated me to step out. So I was in Colorado for almost the last 13 years, and 2 years ago we moved back home. I'm from this area. So that's when I went to the emergency department. And it was the first time that I saw people coming in with all these vague symptoms. And they would have headaches or brain fog or just vague neurologic symptoms like numbness and tingling and things like that. And we would run their labs and then we would tell them they were fine. And they were so frustrated because they're like, I'm not fine. And I knew that too because I had already studied for about 10 years functional medicine. And I was like, they're not fine. There's something going on. We have to dig deeper. So I see that. And now that I've stepped back and even dealing with people with diabetes or people at risk for diabetes, I see the parallels of all this stuff is that it's some sort of metabolic disorder going on underneath. And in your population with Alzheimer's and dementia, that's how it presents itself. But that same thing could be going on, and it presents itself in excess weight and in low mood and low energy in the people that I serve. And so it's really the same problem just presenting itself differently in different people.
Correct. Right. And that's exactly it. And that's what when people, so we do free cognitive testing. And because if you have a family member that has had Alzheimer's or dementia and you start noticing moments, then you're kind of freaking out in your head because you're like, what is wrong? This is not normal. And I always say it's not just a quick little like, oh, I forgot now that I remembered it. It is like scary things happen inside your brain where you just go blank. Like someone was telling me earlier today that they were in the grocery store and they were looking to get to the other side of the grocery store but couldn't figure out how to get from one side to the other.
That's terrifying.
Right? And they were just freaking out. In their head, they were like, why can I not? Where am I? What is happening? So when those types of things happen, it literally, a lot of people who get Alzheimer's, it literally can start out just by being someone who never sleeps. They're never getting a full 8 hours of sleep ever. That literally can be the cause, potentially, of them getting cognitive decline, dementia, and potentially Alzheimer's. It could be that along with maybe they have some hormone imbalances. It could be low sleep, but they have a really stressful job, which is what keeps them up at night. And so stress, we all know stress alone can cause any disease known to man, including Alzheimer's, just stress alone, right? And so it's just interesting how the answer, because I tell people, if you follow like what I follow my plan, it's about exercise. It's about eating mostly vegetables, organic, very little fruit, and then some lean proteins. It's about stress levels and trying to mitigate that to as low levels as possible. It's about sleep. It's about oral hygiene. It's about all of these things. It's lifestyle. And by the way, if you were having cognitive issues and you're following this plan for your cognitive issues, by the way, it's going to help all the other things too, right?
Absolutely.
And it's really what we learned when we were kids, right?
Well, yes, but that's one of the things why I'm passionate about working with moms, because I see in my children all the systems that are in place out there in the world that are actually setting the neural pathways of our children in the wrong direction. And it's frightening to me. So even something as simple as like my daughter just started going to youth group because she's going to be in 6th grade next year. And you go there and the only offering for the children is soda and candy. And my daughter Eustace followed my path, and she's like, Mom, I won't drink soda. And I was like, but your brother will not be the same way when he goes there. I know he'll be down there like downing things. And I just want to go to the leaders there and say, what kind of neural pathways are we setting up and what kind of future are we setting for our children? And whether that be there or in schools or anywhere else, right? The school lunch program has pizza as a vegetable, right? They identify pizza as a vegetable in the national school lunch program. And so what are we setting our kids up for if these are the patterns that they're laying the groundwork for in their formative years, so that they now, when they're adults, have to go through and change all the things that we're trying to break and the bad habits we're trying to break. So why don't we just set them up for success so they don't have to break the bad habits?
That's exactly it. And maybe the answer is going to the youth directors and saying, let me provide some snacks, and then let's maybe get more those types of snacks on the rotation instead of all the sugar and the junk.
That's what I've thought about is like, hey, how can I just present another option so that the kids that come there don't only get to drink water out of the sink, right? Like, can they have a bubble water? Can they have something else that would be just another option? They don't feel like the outcast and the person standing out.
Exactly. Don't you think, though, I mean, I am finding this, but I think, like, my kids are now in their low 30s, but I'm finding that kids, even when they were younger, because I've always been really kind of health conscious, but I think people are being a lot more conscious of what they're putting in their body, maybe not to the degree that you and I would like them to, right? But do you see that, are the people you're working with, do you see them making changes quicker? Or is it still a slow process?
It kind of depends. I get a range of people. Some people, the problem out there is that there's a lot of health food marketing that if you really dig deeper, it's not healthy at all. And so that's kind of one of the first places I try to help people identify. Some people I work with have already recognized that, and they're already trying to make changes. But their big issue might be like what you said, is stress. They may be eating the best food in the world, but their stress level is not under control at all. And so they can't move the needle on the things that they want to move. So it's really a three-legged stool of stress, toxins, and our food system. And so I see it in that way. So it kind of depends on where people are when they meet me. Like today, I had a nurse that I was meeting with, and she was like, I think I'm pretty healthy. But then even something as simple as like an Atkins like pre-made shake, and it says, 15 grams of protein, and it says 5 grams of fiber and all these things on the outside, which is all the marketing that they do. And I had her turn it around and look at the ingredient list, and she's like, oh, the ingredient list is this long. And the second ingredient, I think, was vegetable oil. And so I just said, you didn't do anything wrong because you are believing and trusting the marketing that's out there, but we can be so deceived by the health food marketing that's out there. And we see the protein and the fiber and all the things that we are triggered to see, but we forget that there's other things that are hidden in there that can be causing inflammation, like what you're talking about, like these processed seed oils and all these other things.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can't pronounce most of the words. I mean, what is the rule of thumb? If it's 8 or less items, that you want at least 8 or less items that are ingredients that are in what it is you're eating.
I've heard different rules. I've heard 5 or less.
5 or less, yeah.
Can you read it? Does it say garlic, avocados, cilantro, salt? Like, do you know what they are?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I always, so you're going to laugh. So if I'm going to go off the rails, right, if I'm going to have one thing, it's going to be, and they do not sponsor this, but Andy's frozen custard, because literally they have 4 items in their custard.
Oh, do they? I don't think
4 items in their custard. That's it.
Okay.
It's like all like products I know, milk
you can go buy it at a grocery
and,
store, right?
Right.
You could go buy the ingredients and make it yourself in the grocery store, then it's probably okay to eat.
Exactly. So if I'm going to go off the rails and take a hit, then that's usually what it's going to be. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, right? Anyway, how are you seeing your business changing as the years go by? Where do you see this in 5 years?
Oh, I have a dream of a lot of things. I'm a big dreamer. I would love, one of the things I started with was to see Lee Summit as like one of the next Blue Zones. I would love to see that. I would love to find and support like a community space where people can come, and maybe it's a cafeteria style restaurant. My husband would freak out right now if I was saying this out loud. Just where people can come, they can build community, because that's a huge part of our mental health and all of the things that we're talking about. And then also that they could just trust all the food that's there and not have to think about it, because that's the paralyzing part for most of my clients, is just like the overthinking of what choices to make. So if every day you could show up in a community space where the food was available and, dream big. No, I'm not looking for investors in that unless somebody wants to do that. But that's my dream. Now, whether that comes true, otherwise I would love to just coach people and see them to create those pathways. I've had dreams of even just finding girlfriends that have 5 groups of them that can come together once a week, and they all prepare something and they share with each other, so that then you have an easier way to have the good, healthy food, and then you have community and all these other things that are tied with it.
Right. I love that. And, we're starting to see more places that have healthier options. I mean, if you're going to be gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar, low sugar, then there's no better time than now where you're going to at least find some options usually. It still can be difficult, but I think a place like that would be fabulous. I'm going to tell you should do that. I say go for it. I'll be the first person in line. How about that?
Sounds great.
What have we not talked about? What would you like to cover that we've not talked about today?
Oh gosh, I could talk about these things forever. I mean, I think we've talked about some amazing things. I love the work that you're doing for Alzheimer's, and I love just the kind of being a voice of hope that people don't have to live with those symptoms. And I want to be that same voice of hope for people with similar symptoms that are just presenting themselves in a different way, right? I feel like we're standing in front of the brick wall trying to stop people before they hit it. And I love that our bodies are such amazing vehicles that even if we do hit the brick wall, we do have the ability to put the pieces back together.
It's forgiving.
And kind of turn directions and go on a different path and still be healed. But it's a lot harder. So can we stop people before they hit the brick wall so that they don't have to do that hard of work to change path and go down a different direction.
I love that. Yeah. And I love the point that you made that, I mean, the way you put it was really brilliant, but, you know, it's just presenting all the things that were causing my cognition problems and pre-Alzheimer's it's just presented in a different way in other people. I think that's really what it is. It's just all these things in our lifestyle. So what a pleasure it is to meet you. I'm so excited. If people want to get to find you, they're interested in having that 15-minute consultation to see if you're a good fit, where do they go to find you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, underthehoodwellness.com. And I also have a free starter kit on there if they want to just take a quick thing. I know we've talked about this, that the low sugar and all that stuff helps with the brain health, but it's all about insulin resistance. And so there's a quick diagnostic quiz on that to kind of see if you're at risk for insulin resistance. That's just a thing I have out there into the world. And then there's also a link on there to set up a discovery call.
Very good. Very good. All right. So you guys heard it, underthehoodwellness.com. So that's where you'll go if you want to get together with her. And I think that what you're doing is fantastic. And I really see this type of medicine really the way of the future. And it's cash basis. You know, people aren't taking insurance as much anymore. And I think that's kind of what we're going to start seeing is people taking their own health into their own hands and getting the help that they need. So
absolutely.
Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So look her up, and thank you so much for checking us out today and listening to us. And we'll see you next time on another edition of Bringing Hope to Alzheimer's.